Russ Hamilton is one of the biggest villains in the history of poker. Nobody knew that he had a secret weapon, a tool that let him see every card on the table, a tool that let him win whenever he wanted, a tool that allowed him to steal over $20 million from unsuspecting players without them even knowing. For years, nobody could explain how Russ Hamilton was always one step ahead. Then, in 2008, the truth came out. This is the story of how Russ Hamilton cheated the poker world, got caught, and never faced justice. And by the end of this video, you'll see why his downfall wasn't just inevitable, it was deserved. The early 2000s were the golden age of online poker. Millions of players logged in daily, dreaming of turning small bankrolls into life-changing money. One of the biggest poker sites at the time, Ultimate Bet. It had everything: huge cash games, massive tournaments, and a lineup of poker legends promoting the brand. Players thought they were competing on a level playing field. But behind the scenes, Russ Hamilton was running the most sophisticated cheating operation in online poker history. For 4 years, he used a secret tool known as God Mode, a feature that let him see every opponent's hole cards in real time. No bluffs worked against him, no traps could be set. He played like a poker god because he literally was one. At first, nobody suspected a thing, but then, some of the best players in the world started losing in ways that didn't make sense. Hands that defied probability, win rates that were mathematically impossible. It took years for the poker community to uncover the scam, and when they did, the name Russ Hamilton became permanently associated with fraud and deception. But here's the craziest part. Even when the evidence was undeniable, Hamilton never faced a single day in prison. So how did he pull it off? How did the poker world expose him? And why did he get away with it? We're about to break it all down. But before he was the mastermind of one of the biggest cheating scandals in poker history, Russ Hamilton was just another gambler chasing a dream. Born in 1948, Hamilton came up in the cutthroat world of Las Vegas card rooms, where instincts mattered more than solver outputs, and nobody cried about variance. He wasn't a flashy player, not in the way someone like Phil Hellmuth or Stu Ungar was. He didn't need to be. He played tight, patient, and predatory. He let other people hang themselves, then dragged in their chips without so much as a smirk. In 1994, he got his moment, the World Series of Poker Main Event, the biggest title in the game, the one tournament that turns nobodies into legends, and against a field of killers, Hamilton outlasted them all, winning the bracelet, the $1 million prize pot, and a bonus payout in silver bars matching his body weight. Winning the main event should have been the peak of his career. It should have been the moment that defined him as a poker great, but Russ Hamilton wasn't satisfied with just winning, he wanted more. By the early 2000s, poker was changing, the game was moving online. Sites like Party Poker, PokerStars, and Full Tilt were exploding, turning the game into a global phenomenon, and Hamilton saw the opportunity. He wasn't just going to play online poker, he was going to own it. So, he teamed up with a group of investors and poker pros to launch Ultimate Bet, a site that promised elite games, high security, and a chance to play against some of the best in the world. Phil Hellmuth signed on as the face of the brand, and Hamilton positioned himself as one of the key insiders. From the outside, Ultimate Bet looked like a massive success. The games were juicy, the marketing was slick, and the money was rolling in. But behind the scenes, Hamilton wasn't just running a poker site. He was designing the greatest scam the game had ever seen, and in 2004, he activated the one feature that would turn him from a poker champion into a poker supervillain. For most poker players, finding an edge means putting in hours of study, mastering bet sizing, and developing an uncanny ability to sniff out weakness. For Russ Hamilton, it meant something a little different. He didn't just want an edge, he wanted certainty. In 2004, Ultimate Bet introduced what was supposed to be an internal security tool, designed to catch cheaters by allowing certain administrators to see players' hole cards. On paper, it was a safeguard. In reality, it was the equivalent of handing a loaded gun to the greediest man in the room and asking him not to pull the trigger. They called it God Mode, and that's exactly what it was. An account logged in with God Mode, active, could see every single card on the table in real time. It didn't matter if it was a $10 sit and go or the highest stakes games on the site. If you had access, you were playing with perfect information. No guessing, no reading souls, just cold, clinical theft. At first it was subtle. Hamilton and his associates weren't looking to crush every single hand. That would be too obvious. Instead, they played like sharks in a tank of fish, picking their spots, letting players win just enough to keep them coming back. But as the months went by, the greed took over. Hamilton started calling up poker pros, inviting them to play high-stakes heads-up matches on Ultimate Bet. These weren't just random grinders, these were some of the best players in the world. Guys like Mike Matisow and Prahlad Friedman, elite talents who had spent years honing their craft. And one by one, they got absolutely destroyed. Their bluffs never worked, their value bets got snapped off with second pair. Every time they adjusted, their opponent adjusted right back, like they were one step ahead on every street. Because they were. Friedman, one of the earliest online crushers, lost a fortune. Matisow, fresh off a World Series of Poker Main Event final table, was convinced he was just running bad. It wasn't just the money. Hamilton was stealing their confidence, their belief in their own ability. He was breaking them. And if that was all there was to the scam, Hamilton might have gotten away with it. He could have quietly walked off with his millions, living out the rest of his life in luxury. But like every good villain, he got sloppy. One account started showing up at high-stakes tables with an absolutely impossible win rate, the kind of numbers that made even the biggest crushers look like amateurs. The username, Neo. And if that name sounds ridiculous, just wait until you hear who the account supposedly belonged to. On January 8th, 2008, online poker detectives on the 2+2 forums noticed something strange. A brand new account was absolutely obliterating high-stakes games on Ultimate Bet. Not just winning, crushing at a rate that defied every mathematical model of poker variance. The account played suboptimally, made bizarre calls, yet still never seemed to lose. It was printing money in a way that shouldn't have been possible. And then, someone checked the account details. Neo, this unstoppable high-stakes crusher, was supposedly a 13-year-old kid from New York. That's when the poker community knew something was seriously wrong. For the first time, people started digging into hand histories. They combed through thousands of hands, looking for patterns, and what they found was undeniable. The account wasn't just running hot, it was folding second-best hands at an inhuman rate. It was calling river bluffs with absurd precision. It played like someone who knew the cards before they were turned over. At first, Ultimate Bet did what every shady company does when caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They denied everything. Players were told they were imagining things, that they were just salty over losing, that there was nothing to see here. But the problem with scamming the smartest players in the world, they don't just give up. A poker pro named Michael Josem, a literal mathematician, ran an independent statistical analysis on Neo's win rate. His conclusion: the odds of running this hot were roughly equivalent to winning the lottery 4 days in a row. And suddenly, Ultimate Bet didn't just have a PR problem, they had a full-scale investigation on their hands. But here's where things get even crazier. Neo was just one piece of the puzzle. As the poker world kept digging, they realized this went way deeper than one rogue account, because Russ Hamilton wasn't just using a couple of anonymous usernames to pull off his scheme. He had created an entire army of hidden accounts, all funneling money straight to him. And when that truth came out, so did the tapes. For months, Ultimate Bet tried to bury the scandal. Refunds were promised, excuses were made, and vague statements about internal security breaches were floated around. But there was one thing they couldn't bury: the tapes. In 2013, a bombshell recording surfaced, a secret conversation between Russ Hamilton, Ultimate Bet executives, and a couple of lawyers. It wasn't speculation, it wasn't a theory, it was Russ Hamilton, in his own words, admitting to stealing between 16 and 18 million from players. And just in case there was any lingering doubt about his remorse, he made it crystal clear: I did take this money, and I'm not going to give it back.
And I did take this money, and I'm not trying to make it right, Dan, so we got to get that out of the way real quick, okay?
That's it. That's the quote. No excuses, no justifications, just the bald-faced confession of a man who had robbed an entire community and didn't lose a second of sleep over it. The tape was the poker equivalent of a murder suspect getting caught on camera saying, "I did it. What are you going to do about it?" And what did happen? Nothing. No jail time, no federal charges, no legal consequences of any kind. Hamilton walked away completely free, his millions stashed away somewhere, while countless poker players were left with nothing but an email from Ultimate Bet saying, "Sorry for the inconvenience." At best, some players got a fraction of their stolen money refunded, but a lot of the payouts, they didn't come from Ultimate Bet. They came straight from other players' deposits. It was like a bank got robbed and started taking money from new customers to cover the losses. Then, in 2011, came Black Friday, the day the US government shut down online poker in America. Ultimate Bet, collapsed. Absolute Poker collapsed. The remaining money, whatever was left, was seized by the feds. For the first time in years, Russ Hamilton disappeared. He never tried to clear his name, never issued an apology, never attempted to make things right, because why would he? He'd already won. He cheated the best players in the world, walked away with millions, and completely dodged the justice system. He never had to answer for anything. But here's the thing about poker players, they don't forget. Russ Hamilton might have escaped legal consequences, but he was permanently exiled from the game. No more big tournaments, no more sponsorship deals, no more invitations to the high-stakes private games. He became a walking cautionary tale, proof that even in poker, a game where deception is part of the skill set, there's a line you don't cross. And yet, despite everything, there's still one unanswered question about the ultimate bet scandal. Because while we know how Hamilton did it, we still don't know exactly how much he stole. And when you hear the full scope of his operation, you might realize 18 million was just the tip of the iceberg. Russ Hamilton wanted to get away with the perfect crime, and in a way, he did. No jail time, no financial penalties, just a quiet exit from the poker world, millions of stolen dollars tucked away, and the kind of name recognition you don't exactly put on a business card. Hamilton's mistake wasn't just that he got caught, it's that he underestimated how obsessive the poker community can be. He thought he could admit to stealing 16 to 18 million, throw out a half-hearted, not giving it back, and that would be the end of it. It wasn't, because when people started digging deeper, they realized something. The real number might not be 18 million, it might be double that, maybe even more. The official refund to players, $22 million, but even that didn't cover all the shady accounts linked to the scam. Over 100 usernames were traced back to the super user cheating ring. More accounts kept popping up, each with bizarrely high win rates, each disappearing just as quickly as they arrived. How much did Hamilton really take? Nobody knows for sure, but one thing was obvious, he lied about the number. And that brings us to the final chapter of his story, Russ Hamilton's quiet exile. After the tapes leaked in 2013, he went dark. No public statements, no desperate attempts to clear his name, no half-assed apology tour like some of poker's other disgraced figures. He just vanished. No more WSOP appearances, no more ultimate bet, no more invites to the high-stakes private games where poker's biggest names gamble with the kind of money Hamilton used to steal. He tried to lay low, but the poker world never forgot. Every once in a while, rumors would surface. A sighting here, a whispered story there. Supposedly, he played private cash games in Florida for a while. A few reports claim he was seen gambling in Las Vegas, but nobody ever confirmed it. Not that it matters, because Russ Hamilton was done. And here's the irony, he stole tens of millions, he got away with it, and yet, in the one world where his name actually meant something, he has nothing. No legacy, no respect, just a permanent stain on the game. For all his cheating, for all his scamming, he didn't just lose money in the long run, he lost the ability to ever sit down at a poker table again without being hated. And that's the thing about poker. It's not just about the money, it's about belonging. It's about showing up, throwing down your chips, and proving you can hang with the best. Hamilton will never have that again, because in poker, you can get away with a lot. You can angle, you can slow roll, you can run up a multi-million-dollar bankroll and lose it all in one session. But the one thing you can't do, be a rat. Russ Hamilton might have been the biggest cheat in poker, but he wasn't the only player whose downfall was entirely self-inflicted. Some poker legends don't need a super user account to destroy themselves. They do it with a different kind of vice. Drugs, alcohol, addiction, the real killers of poker careers. Click here to watch.